To Kiki's House of Joy. I hope you all are happy and you are feeling pretty good. If you're not, maybe I'll bring it and brighten up your mood. This is Kiki's House of Joy, where joy is made with intention. This is our heated rivalry episode. If you don't know what that is, if you have HBO, you will find it. It's not just that episode, I promise, but we will talk about it. I just want to kind of chime in. I have a background, so let me choose it. Let me choose it. We're playing hockey. We're playing hockey today. All right, so welcome to Kiki's House of Joy. Oh, life is good, right? Okay, how are you all feeling today? I'm doing pretty well. It took a lot of effort to make this today, so now I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. Well, the fruits of our labor, because I'm like, whew, I didn't put in all the work here, so I'm enjoying the fruits of our labor. Look carefully. Do you see anything? Do those people look familiar? Okay. Well, welcome. Get yourself settled. If you started a task, start your task. If you're like me, I love to listen to videos like this and do things. Sometimes I'm at work. Sometimes I am cleaning. Sometimes I'm walking. I love people who talk so I can walk. So I love to listen to people as I walk and I'll talk back to them. So hopefully you are doing something like that. If not, and you're not watching this live, pause the video, get to going, do something. Let me join you on your task. Maybe you're cooking. I want to like help you cook something delicious. So let's start off with the week. All right. On this channel, I talk about the best week ever. Every week is the best week ever, 2026. This is the series where I break down why this week was the best week ever. At the end of the year, we will have the best year ever, but we break it down week by week. If you don't know how this all started, I did this in 2024. I didn't record it. In 2025, last year, I came back on YouTube after having a channel for a long time, and then I took a 2-year hiatus. And then I decided, okay, well, I want to talk about what I've been doing. And that was doing the best year ever. When I did take the break back then, I forget what year it was at this point, but if you do the math, you can figure it out based off what I just said. But when I did take that break, it was because it was a mostly spiritual channel. So I talk about all kinds of spiritual stuff. And I find myself now still talking about it, but I talk about it in a different way. There's a segment called Something Deep. And I notice that Something Deep usually gets pretty spiritual. And it's funny because I actually sit here every week and I'm next to my own set of a deck that I made myself. So one time we did this fun activity where well, I did a fun activity where I decided to act like I was Madame Cleo for Halloween. That was my Halloween costume. And then I decided to make my own deck of cards and to do so. And what I did was I played reggae music on repeat all night. And then I made these cards. So like I would listen to different songs and I'd be like if you I'll read some of the one of the cards is like Living Dangerously, Pass the Duchy, Standing Your Truth. It was just like the music. Standing at the Fork in the Road. That was probably like a Bob Marley song. Everything. Love is the Drug. That is who is she? Pull up to my bumper, baby. That's one of her songs. Murder She Wrote, Murder She Wrote, right? And then we have some other ones like Big V Energy. It was good while it lasted, but these all pretty much come from like reggae songs, Heads High. And then I think I had to throw in some R&B. So I have Heaven Must Be Like This. Keep an eye out, Gather the Ingredients. And so that was Gather the Ingredients was inspired by Stir It Up. Stir it up. And I was just thinking about like gathering the ingredients to actually stir something up. Then we went into Afro beats a little bit to You Don't Need No Other Body. You don't need no other body. And then we have Greetings. That was more like a recent song. I forget. Give Thanks. I think she has a good song with that. Sweepstakes winner, First Eye, Third Eye, Use It. Now that has nothing, but that's where this all came from. And I really like using these cards. Sometimes I will still use them. But it came from just one night of me listening to music, and as the ideas came I would just write them down, and then that's how I created the cards. Then I had got some like cardstock, cut it up, and then I just put nothing cute, I just wrote it all on one thing. So most of it comes from reggae songs like From the Nipple to the Bottle, Never Satisfied. That's a Grace Jones, so Grace Jones is up in here a lot. That's a Grace Jones song. So anyway, um yeah, I still have those influences on the channel, but I'm doing it in a different way. So those of you guys who have been with me all this time, you know that, and you just kind of, you've grown with me. We've grown together. And if you're new, well, hey, like now you kind of have a better understanding of what this channel is about and where we come from. And I share the week. And so I've broken it down to different categories, and that's like something new, something challenging, something funny, something deep, and something beautiful. So I'll just go through the week and bring up those things that came up. And so sometimes, of course, it's more than one thing. So let's get into it. Hope you relax. I hope you've gotten your thing. I hope that this time of me talking has given you time to settle wherever you're going to settle. Let's take this trip. Okay. All right, here we go. We are going to talk about something new. I'd like to start off with something new. So, for the first time this in my life, I took a hip hop dance class. So that was on Monday. Sunday was chill. But Monday, hey Larisha, what's going on? I'm happy that you're here. Come and join. I have a lot to talk about. And of course, I'll be saying hello to folks as they come in, especially if I've known you for a while. So the first thing I did, we're on something new. I'm just getting into the first part, and I took a hip hop dance class for the first time in my life. Why was it the first time? And you guys know I like to dance. It's because why am I going to take a hip hop dance class? Like I was raised on hip hop. Like I never could wrap that around my head. And then on top of that, anytime I saw dancing that was like hip hop-ish, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what they were doing made it hip hop. The only peace of mind that I had is that when you look at the class, it says hip hop choreography. So that kind of it puts in perspective, like, okay, you're trying to find a way to choreograph to it versus what you do in the club or what I did in the club, and you just dance to the music, or what you do with your friends and you dance to music. Typically with your friends, you're gonna do dances. You're gonna be doing like the Dougie. You're gonna be doing like all the other stuff, right? And so, I'm gonna talk to. We'll get to it. And I'm reading Larisha's comment. I'm gonna read it, but afterwards. So typically, that is to me my understanding of hip hop was you move to the music and you do what feels right. Like, and if you ever, and then I mean, growing up, I have friends who did have like their own little dance team and they were dancing, but it was stuff that made sense. Like if they were moving in a certain way to the music and like just like doing like really nice stuff, it was stuff that made sense. It was like you saw, you're like, yep, that makes sense. It wasn't hip hop. It wasn't, this is hip hop. And so exactly what Larisha wrote. I'm going to read it now. It says, all I'm seeing is that white lady from YouTube teaching hip hop. Exactly. So there's like this old video, and like and she's like in this baggy clothing, like some kind of like tracksuit. And she's like, this is hip hop. And that is what I think about going to hip hop class. And so I was like, okay, let me go. I have a few friends who they go to this class. Now this class is on the other side of town. It's like it's far. So they go to this class, and I have never gone. One, because I couldn't wrap my head around it, and two, the concept in general, and then two, I ain't driving that far. Like y'all lost your mind on that one. So those are my two reasons. But my friend, she likes to go, and she happens to live more on my side of town. So I was like, you know what? When you go, let me know. I'll go. And for her, it was good because she has company on the ride, right? She was gonna go anyway. Now I just got to be there, and I get to hop in and take this little drive. Now, could I bring myself to do it on purpose to myself? Probably not. But that's why it was perfect timing for me to go to try to see, like, well, maybe I will like it. Stop being so closed-minded, like, so what if it seems a little whack to you? It's okay. Just go. So, and so I was like, all right, let me do this. I mean, I was even on a dance team at one point, but it wasn't like that. It was like, okay. It just wasn't like that. There was nobody like This never happened on the dance team. You know what I'm trying to say? Because it was just a whole bunch of black girls dancing and deciding what we were going to do next. That never came to our, meaning we are the culture. We aren't visiting the culture. Do you know what I'm saying? So because we are the culture, it never happened. And now I bet you're wondering now. See, for those of you guys who didn't watch, you might need to come back. I'll do it for you one more time. So if you're doing something right now, come to the screen. I'm going to show you what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. We don't do that. Who does that? Who? Okay. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, okay, this is just something new. We get to class. Now the teacher's a black man. So that kind of gave me peace. I'm like, okay, the teacher's a black man. All right. Because I wasn't sure at first. I didn't know if it was like, I don't know if he was Hispanic. Cause I saw the name. The name kind of had a vibe. I wasn't quite sure. So, all right, it's a black man. All right, kind of. But then we started doing the moves. And sure enough, I swear one of the moves was from the video, This Is Hip Hop. I'm not saying that's how he dances in real life. He is teaching what is digestible. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I swear we did a move like this, boom, 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 boom. I was like, what is this? And then there was one move where we went like this, out, in, out, ooh. And my body, I look stiff as hell. And the reason why I look stiff because I had a hard time accepting that this is what was happening. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like I had a hard time accepting it. And the whole time I'm in that class, I'm like, this is hip hop. This is hip hop. And then the way they were dressed. Now, when I go to a dance class, I'm going to dress comfortable. Like I want to be relaxed, okay? But in a way that's comfortable for dancing. Because if I'm moving fast, I don't want to have clothes that I'm like trying to like navigate through. Okay. But this concept of hip hop is that you wear, baggy pants and, they all try and look like Aaliyah or something. Like, I'm like, that was Aaliyah and it was for a music video. Like that's just, you got to wear what's comfortable. So it was weird that they were all in this like hip hop uniform. You know what I'm saying? So that was really interesting. There's a big like, even if like it was like they found that you find the baggiest pants you can find, just you want to be comfortable. But it was weird because it was not just comfortable anymore. It also felt like hip hop. It was so weird. I'm like, this isn't the cult. This is so weird. I have a thesis out there that actually talks about hip hop culture. I know. I went all the way to art school and then did a whole thesis on hip hop. I did though, because I could. No, who was gonna check me, boo? They didn't. I did do a whole thesis on it. Yeah, the hip hop and R&B cosplay is killing me. It was so weird. I did not understand it. So yeah. Anyway, it was the class, and then the class was. I mean, it was fine. The weird part to me is at one point he's doing this move, and I was like, "Oh, hold up, that's a crip walk." Or the blow walk, choose one of them. But I was like, that's a crip walk. Because he's like, oh, you're just kind of moving on your heels. And then you put one foot back. And I'm like, oh, you talking about? I'm moving my feet. I'm like, the crip walk? I don't want to know how to crip walk. And that's the other thing. I knew real crips. Now, I wasn't in the streets like that, y'all. I knew one or two real crips, okay? I knew them from a distance because once I knew one crip, I was like, I don't need to know any more crips, all right? That's how I rolled was this. I know one crip accidentally. I don't need to know any more of y'all, okay? We're good. We are good. But I knew, and the last thing that I would think to do was do the crip walk. My friend, and the only reason why I knew is because that was her boyfriend, right? She knew how to crip walk. And you know what? She knew it because he taught her. And I'm like, if that's what you want to do, if you want to crip walk, that's fine. Okay? That's your own personal business. I personally am not. I know I wasn't going to be with a guy who was a crip. I knew I wasn't going to be in a relationship. This is not a dance I ever need to learn. This isn't a skill I need to have. And so I was like, yeah, I don't know how crip walk, right? I'm going to know, I'm going to be with a guy who knows how to I don't know, build a house. I'm going to know how to build a house. Okay. We got different skills. We got different skills that we're looking for. Okay. I want to be with a guy who, I don't know, is like a nuclear engineer or something like that. I mean, I'm just choosing things, right? I mean, I'm going to know about like isotopes. Okay. That's what I'm trying to know. I'm not trying to know how to crip walk. So we had different, I was like, look, I'm good. I'm good. Now, no shade to anyone who did want to know that, but I didn't want to have those skills in my wheelhouse. Right. And so anyway, I never knew, never learned, but I was aware, and I'm gonna be real with you all. I think crip walking, blow walking, because it's a similar dance, by the way. It's just crip walking is more popular because of Snoop, so forth. But they have a similar dance, and it actually is traced back to even something more ancestral. I saw this wonderful documentary once, and you could actually see that you see that same movement in African dance. So in that sense, okay, fine. If you say you're reaching from those roots, okay, but that's not what's really happening. And jazz, like it's all there, right? But the moves that you're seeing are specifically related to what we know modern as the modern day crip walk or blood walk. Like I said, we know that the crip walk is more popular, but if you actually saw Kendrick's thing on Amazon, he had Bloods up there, and they were also some of the why are Bloods crip walking? And it's called the Blood Walk. One of the biggest distinctions, if you're wondering about this, one of the biggest distinctions between the two dances is what they're spelling out with their feet. So their feet and their hand gestures are giving you the story. So usually you're either spelling out crip or blood, and there's a storyline. Now, I also want to be clear that those walks are beautiful to me. I think that I don't like the idea of gangs selling drugs to the community. I don't like the idea of, having violence in the community. I don't like the idea of, putting firearms in the community that will be used against each other. It's different if you're talking about protecting each other, but I don't like the idea of 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 these groups not uplifting the community instead of harming the community. So that's the part where I just don't stand by that. But when it comes to the dancing and the way that they are moving their body and trained to do, I find it beautiful. I think it's a beautiful aspect of our culture. And you have to also realize when you see Serena do it with Kendrick last year, once again, it's from her hood, right? It's not like she's a spectator, and she was protected by the Crips, right? So that there's so many layers of what they're seeing and what she's experiencing. So I say all this to say I don't want to go to a dance class and casually do the Crip walk. What in the world? And why are you teaching all these people who don't look nothing like us this dance like it's casual? So once again, I'm having like this conflict because it reminds me of the same thing I experienced in salsa dancing, where I go to a salsa dance class and they're like, let's throw a little afro in. And the afro that they're throwing in are dances to orishas, which are Yoruban deities. Also, we see these orishas in Santeria and Candomblé and Ubanda, and you see it, all throughout ATRs. And they're doing the dances that are more related to what Santeria from Cuba casually in a dance class, and they're calling it Afro. What in the world? What in the world? So hold on. Let me read some comments here as we go on. So there's a way to do the walk where you don't spell it out like they do. I know. Listen, I'm HBCU, and everybody was trying to do a crib walk up in there. I know that, but and no one's spelling anything out. They're just moving their feet in a fun way. I totally get that. That's exactly what Serena did. My only issue with that is I don't have an end to that culture directly. Me personally, I just told you the closest I've ever been. Okay, so for me, I don't find it appropriate to do that dance. I guess to me there's something about it. There's a weird part of me that I just said the part about gangs I don't like. But when I think about gangs and the potential for gangs, I think that there's this potential for a united group of young men and young women to do something absolutely beautiful and divine in their community, which is a mindset shift. And the fact that they've already found a way to be united, and the fact that they've already found a way to learn to trust each other and build this bond, there's a part of me that still holds something in my mind, that there's something sacred about them. Okay. And so that means I don't believe it's appropriate for me to truly try to learn to do the dance or do it well, because I do think there's something special about them. Even if I don't like the idea of something of the negative aspects of what gangs can do, but in my mind, I see something beautiful about what they can do if just tweaked a little bit, right? Protecting your neighborhood, being the patrol. Right now, if you're looking in Philly, you see that there is a Black Panther movement being reinvigorated, and so I think about just the potential of what it means for these already existing groups of people who are already united to then shift and do something absolutely beautiful in their space. So I hold space for that. Therefore, I see the dance as being sacred and special. I see it as maybe a rites of passage for the people in the group. I ain't going through that rites of passage, and I haven't done it. Why am I just like with the Orishas? I haven't done the rites of passage for that, right? And I don't intend to. Why am I casually doing a dance? So I feel we have things in our culture that are special. Why? What do you mean I'm going to just jump around casually like it's nothing? So that's how I feel about it. I think it's just because there's a as much as I say you should be able to, and this is what I've said previously spiritually, as much as I feel that you should be able to spiritually access these deities as you would like, it doesn't mean you imitate what people are doing in these established spiritual orders. You see what I'm saying? I've never tried to do what they're doing, you know? So if a deity came to me, Oshun came to me, right? Or Oya came to me, right? I wasn't then like, okay, let me go find the Oya dance. You know, I didn't. If anything, I was just like, okay, well, how am I supposed to relate to you? Those are my questions. Okay, well, you're here. How do I relate to you, Elegba? What do I do? What is this? You tell me. Come on, let's talk. That was the way I always approached it, because I didn't, you know, and yes, I played around. I absolutely played around with colors and all that, but that was through conversation. That was through communication. That was me saying, "Hey, does this feel right? Does this feel right?" And I kept going that way. But not just haphazardly, I'm just going to imitate, if that makes sense. It was through meditation, through conversation, that I would allow myself to evolve and connect. Right? Because I could look at my videos now. I have a video on Oshun, I have a video on Oya, I have a video on Ezui Freya. Those are the main deities in my existence that I've shown on this channel, in which I've had connection with. And any connection that you see was based off of meditation, conversation, and really feeling grounded in my relationship and my understanding of that particular Orisha. Okay. So there's just that part of me that feels like, yeah, I don't know. That's just, I feel it should be done differently. Okay. I'm going through comments so we can go. But yeah, I was like, I went to HBCU, everybody trying to do the crip walk, so I understood it. But yeah, I hate you, TikTok. I'm reading that. Yeah, I know. TikTok is probably a big problem. There's a way to do the walk. Okay, I read that part. Let's see what else we have here. Listen, this isn't the 80s or 90s, Crips and Bloods, but we know how they started. But that's a different story. Yeah. Was the teacher American Black? Good question. I think so. The name, the last name seemed absolutely that. And then the wife came in, and they were a beautiful couple. I think so though. I do think so. Okay. I think so. I know, because I my mind went there too. Because, and that was the hard part for me. I'm like, hold up. But maybe it could be that they maybe weren't raised with hip hop like I was raised with hip hop. Like I know Larisha was raised with hip hop, right? Maybe they just weren't raised with it, where it was just part of it's your culture, right? Maybe that's what it was, because I can't quite figure, because even the way those moves, or it could just be what happens is that people start, they feel, so I don't know, there's a mentality of, one, they've been very successful, apparently they've been on the World of Dance, so this is a powerhouse as far as what they're producing, as far as, you know, success. These classes are packed. The class that I went to apparently is not as packed as they usually can be. So it's usually double the amount of people, and there were plenty of people in that class. I'll tell you that right now. So these classes are typically packed, and the percentages of us are probably less than the percentage of what we are in this whole, state. So it's just a few of us. I think I saw 4 other people, which was more than I was expecting. 1, 2, 3. Maybe there's three or four other people, as far as Black people, and the rest were just, I don't know, whatever they were. Uh, they were much lighter. The rest were that, and so it was. And there was only one girl, like she was doing it. Like, oh, you're doing it. But sometimes you'll see that it seems like some of the people who are in there who might be Black also, they may not have grown up in the culture as much, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's something, there's something in which they might have found this to tap in. And I understand that. Like, you're doing this to tap in. I get it. But I have my own critique just because I have my own relationship to hip hop, and the movement in general. These dances are dances that you learn in the house. And then the weird thing is that you're learning the dances. And so you'll see the Dougie, the crib walk, and then there's just something in between just to get you to one of these familiar dances. I was just like, what? And that's what hip hop choreography was. All right, now we're gonna do Dougie. All right, okay, cool. Now we're gonna do a variation of the crip walk. Okay, now we're gonna do it. That's all it was. I was like, okay, all right, okay. We did almost like the Kid and Play at one point, just a move from that. I'm like, that's all this is. And we just do a little transition. Okay. I'm like, I can be at home. All right. The other issue is that I only got 900 steps. When I go to a dance class and I pay my good money, I need at least 3,000 steps from a dance class because you wasted my time. You're talking about an hour's worth of time and I'm only getting 900 steps. In the 1 hour in my own time, I'm going to get at least probably 5,000 steps. So I get that I may not get 5,000 steps in an hour's dance class, but you got to give me something. 900 steps, because it was just a whole bunch of like small groups sitting there waiting, sitting there. Now, I can tell you, I know the choreography now. Like, I know the whole choreography in my head, but I don't want to know the whole choreography. I wanted to actually dance. I would have been happy to leave and not know it, but now I know it. So, I mean, it depends on what you want in life. Do you want to know choreography from beginning to end, and not have your steps, or do you want to have your steps? I know we have different goals. We can see what mine was. Okay, let's see what else. You're right. Not in my hood. I look left at folks in NYC claiming B's and C's is not our culture. They derive from the West Coast Panthers. I know. When people started to, like, in New York, when I was like, why are there gangs in, like the whole concept of like my cousin was in a gang. I said, I thought that was West Coast. So yeah, because I was raised out here. So for me, I associated Buzz and Crips with just like Compton, like a kind of a smaller area. I didn't even think about it as bigger. Like, even when I started to realize you had people up in all these different areas and you had just like Chicago, all these different, I'm like, what? Why? Right? I knew some guys, they said they were like vice lords. I'm like, if y'all don't just stop all this ridiculous stuff, I'm like, are you helping the community? That's all I care about. So there we go. It's all energy too. Watch what you portray. I think about that as well. And so it's like you're playing in the culture, and then what is your relationship to the culture? I think about these things all the time. So yeah, I feel you should. Thank you. It's about reverence. When you're doing these, there should be some level of reverence, and there wasn't any. It's like, oh, we're just gonna learn a dance today. And then he doesn't name the dance, but I know, those of us know, because so there was a Black woman in there when she actually ended up doing the dance. She was just straight up doing the she was just doing the crip walk. And she looked very official with it. And I'm like, I'm like, okay. At least they're trying to learn. Learn what? This? Okay. Bloods and Crips, even in Africa. That's wild. I mean, all right, I'm going to pray for my people. I mean, let's do it with intention, y'all. Like, you can't have all these organizational skills and then not know how to use it for our betterment. Okay, let's talk about something new still. We're still there. So that was just one thing, hip hop class. Then I did put, I was telling y'all about my quiche last week, my crustless quiche. and how I failed. That was a big fail. And so I said, okay, this week, I'm going to do one with either ricotta cheese or cottage cheese. I chose cottage cheese because the cottage cheese has more, it has more protein in it. And so I was like, let me try that. It was okay. I have to tweak the recipe. I think I'm actually look for a real recipe. I have to tweak the recipe, but it was fine. It was I like the lightness of the flavor. I find that before the flavor was a bit eggy, and I might be at that phase where I'm done with eggs for a bit. I get to a point where I would say like every few years, like I just don't want to eat eggs anymore. And so I think I'm there. So it might be that. It might be what I'm discovering is that I'm at that phase where I'm done with the eggs. Like I'm off the eggs for a bit. So that happens. Every few years I go through a cycle where I'll go about, a year or so, just no eggs. And then I'll be like, oh, I really want eggs. So I just think I might be going through that phase. Because it was just okay. But I tried it, and that's what's most important. I tried something new. So then we have I went to a new restaurant, and this was actually kind of interesting. This was it was a lesbian sports bar. So, not my first time going to a lesbian owned restaurant, but definitely my first time going to a lesbian sports bar. Now, just because it's a lesbian sports bar does not mean it's just there's only lesbians in the sports bar. It's just owned. And yes, that means it's more friendly to women. That means it's more friendly to people who want to watch sports, and I guess in a safer environment. So this is what stood out to me in this. And I will talk about this throughout this today. So I'll give you different details as we go on. But what stood out to me when we were there was there's this point where they have like all the screens and everything like you would typically see in a sports bar. But and there was different sports going on. And so the owner is there and kind of like stops everything, says, hey, everyone, because, people are in there and they got their jerseys on because they were there to watch the football game yesterday with the Broncos and the Bills. I'm only remembering this because I knew I was going to talk about this in the video. I don't watch sports. Let's be very clear. And I was not there for a sports event. Okay. We just happened this was the choice of the group prior to. So we said, okay, let's go here. And we go anywhere. Right. So we're here, we're having a good time. And she stops and says, hey, everyone, I know we're all watching this. How do we feel if we put all the screens on the football game? Is that all right with everyone? Or do we still want to keep certain sports up? What would you like? Football game. Everyone says football game. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, we'll change it there. I was like, is this because it's a lesbian sports bar? That there was so much consideration being put into into just like what people want to see, right? I was very, very like, I was very like, what in the world? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Sports bar. No, you said, oh no, I'd be pissed that they're not there. Well, I wasn't there for the love of the game for sure because I don't know anything about sports. I don't know anything. I'm not interested. We seem to be okay, and we left eventually. So all the people with the jerseys on got to enjoy their time. We were there before the game started. In all fairness, I just want to say, but I don't. And the people who weren't interested were outside. There was like a place outside where you could eat, and the weather was really pretty nice, and so they were out there enjoying. So, but for the most part, everyone had their jerseys, but we had no clue. We had no clue about like there was sports going on. I didn't compute that it was really a sports bar, right? Because I don't know. I don't watch sports, y'all. Like the way I'm not in tune, I stay strong on that. The only thing I know about is that Bad Bunny is going to be at the Super Bowl, and I'm ready for that. Okay? That's it. That's it. And I still don't know any of his songs. I'm just there. I'm just ready for the viewing purpose. I just want to see the show. I know it's got to be good. I want to see if there's any salsa on stage. I want to be there, no, I want to be like that. I want to be at home. That's what I'm ready for. Okay. Cause I don't watch the sports. I don't know about the sports, but I know Larisha knows about sports because that's a love. All right. So speaking of sports, this is the closest I get to sports. Are we ready? I love her. She's like, what is this? All right, speaking of sports, let's get ready. I will tell you that there were some kids in the sports bar, and every time that people cheered, they screamed right along with them. So they were with us. So it did make us look kind of good, like we knew what they were doing, because the kids would be like, ah, every time, every time the people. She would have thrown her drink. Not you wouldn't have done that at the lesbian sports bar. These people were it was very nice. Everything was so super nice and kind. Like it was so different. I don't not that I've been to many sports bars, but the people were just so like, I don't know, nice. I enjoyed myself. I felt very welcome. So Larisha's not going to that particular bar because of what they allow. Okay. All right. So, let me see. Okay. So let's get back on the sports tip. I watched on HBO something called Heated Rivalry. This was about two hockey players who had a very heated rivalry. And did that heat on the ice become heat somewhere else? Watch the 6 episodes and find out. Well, honestly, you'll find out in the first episode. So I watched this series called Heated Rivalry on HBO. If you have not seen it, so there goes some more sports for you. Luckily, there wasn't a lot of sports in that. I was like, I didn't want to watch it when I first heard like the word hockey. I was like, why would I watch that? Like, I'm not watching that. But my friend, one of my crafty friends, that was really like where I was like kind of trusting him. Like, okay, you're my crafty pal. Like we know each other through dance and cooking. I'm like, you don't watch sports, right? So, you know, okay. And I do have friends who watch sports, you know. Um we don't do that together. I don't go to those events. They leave me out of that. And so I was a little nervous, but sure enough, it was just a love story. And so Heated Rivalry, if you guys have not heard about it or you've heard any kind of whispers about it, it is a story, it is a queer story, and between two males who, fall in like it's their love story. It's their love story. Now, the thing about it, they do fall in love, but it takes a process. The thing about this story for me that I loved about it was if you've ever seen, I saw Brokeback Mountain, okay? I don't know, I think I was probably late to watching to seeing Brokeback Mountain, but when I finally did see Brokeback Mountain, I was locked in, okay? And it was a movie that I watched over and over and over again because I just couldn't believe the movie. I was just like, "Whoa, what's this? Whoa!" I kept on watching it, and then it's a sad movie too. And there's these lines that I really kind of got into. Like, there's a line where the wife, what's her name? Because they had a child and they named the child Junior. It was like some funny stuff that was in that movie. That stuff that little things that made you laugh, right? And then the wife who was married to Heath Ledger's character, which is I think Ennis was his name. She goes, you're hanging out there with Jack Twist, Jack Nasty, that kind of thing. That kind of like line right there stays with me and stays in my heart if you can't tell. So it was unrequited love. You assume? No, no, mm-mm, mm-mm, no, mm-mm. No, 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 no. This is why it was good. So if you've seen Brokeback Mountain and you felt the pain from Brokeback Mountain, it was not that. So spoiler alert for anyone who is watching. Spoiler alert for anyone who's watching right now. I'm about to spoil Heated Rivalry. If this hurts your heart, I know the two people here right now, I think they will not be hurt if I spoil this a little bit. Okay. But spoiler alert, because I had to talk about what I liked about it, and I know I'm going to spoil some things. So, spoiler alert. Okay, it's about to happen. You already know that. But honestly, I'm not. I mean, it's still worth watching. Okay, so here we go. Let me read. I'm going to read what Larisha says because this will actually help tell the story. She goes, "There's a lot of DL stuff happening in the sports world. I worked college sports and was on the inside, so I could only imagine what's going on professionally." I love it. So this story, what made it so sweet is that it is they're DL, definitely for a good portion of it. And that does end in the end. They do end up coming out. And that was a really beautiful aspect. And it covered, so for me, I have to say this, like it covered elements of what I liked about them most was that it covered to me what a love story looks like, regardless of who the players are. The idea of it taking time, the idea of it building, the idea of, cute little things becoming deeper things. And, the stuff that might be a little quirky to someone else eventually becomes something way more endearing. And it's a thing that you remember and you think about. These aspects of their personality, like, wow, I really value that about you. I value, like, when you start to see someone and you start to value their strengths, strengths that maybe in their mind might be weaknesses, strengths that, they may not even think about, but it becomes this thing of like, wow, you value that person in your life and what that means and what those moments mean. All of that was happening. It was just a beautiful love story. Was it a little, it was a little feisty? Absolutely. A little steamy, yes. Heated rivalry. It was in the title, but my butt didn't pick that up at all. I think it's because I just have a very innocent way of being. But I had my friend is telling me, so I this is the fun part. We're going to the hip hop class, and then she tells me about it. She's like doing her like final sell for this series, and she was just like, "Oh, it's so great!" Da, da, da. I'm like, "Cool, cool, cool." And I'm like, "Well, you know what? I gotta recommend this to my friend, you know." So I recommended to my friend, and my friend responds immediately and goes, sounds steamy. And I was like, and I'm like, based off of what she's telling me, just the love story aspect, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, maybe. I don't think so though. I think it just seems like a great love story. I'm so innocent. So then, luckily, I didn't even think I had HBO anymore because I know I had canceled I canceled like other things because I was like, it's time for me to release some stuff. But I realized I still did have HBO, which is good to find out. So I wasn't just paying for something I wasn't using. So then I went and I had it, and I was like, okay, well, that night I saw the first episode. First episode went right into the Uchi Kuchi La La. And so then I was like, woo. So I immediately like text my friend, like, no, no, sorry, abort mission, abort mission. I don't know if so I hope nothing happened, but no, this is exactly what you think it is. It's men's love, gotta be intense. I know, Larisha, I'm not naive, but and then and then that's exactly what I realized. After I saw it, I was just like, oh yeah, it's the men. The men are gonna be the men are gonna be the men. I should have known. I should have known. So anyway, I'm warning you all now because I don't want anyone to walk in. And so then I text my friend who recommends. I'm like, you didn't tell me about this. She goes, oh, I forgot to talk about that. I think, yeah, I'm out here recommending it to people. And who are more, maybe a little more conservative. It's not even so much that my friends were conservative. It's just that like there's people around. I would be, it would, she doesn't necessarily watch something completely by herself. And so for me, I'm watching by myself. So if I'm seeing a little action, I'm all right. I'm gonna survive. But I would hate to turn that on and be like, hey mom, you know, I just heard about this love story. Let's go watch it together. And I'm thinking I'm having mom and daughter moment, and we're watching. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And we've seen things, but not, because me and her we watch Bridgerton. So like the first Bridgerton me and my mom watched, that was racy. That was, if you guys have seen that. So that was unexpected too, because no one was really saying it. And then we're just sitting there, and I'm like, me and my mom were like, okay, okay. All right. We're okay. This is human. We're okay. We're all right. Okay. This is human. It's a human experience. Okay. We're okay. So we were fine. We made it through. But you know what I'm trying to say. So, you're like, I can't watch dudes be intimate every episode. That's all I can say. They like that shock value. It is definitely shock value. But I will say, I tried to, by the end, I was like, well, maybe I I will say by the end, they did try to, it was like, there was a story being told. right? But there was a story being told in the sense that what was a bit more detached at first became, the intimacy, which was very detached intimacy. They started to show how connected it was. And I was like, all right, fine. I guess I've learned that. Thank you for that lesson. You could have done this in a different way, but okay, fine, fine, fine. I felt like it was a little bit of I don't think I've ever gotten through like 50 Shades of Grey, but it had that 50 Shades of Grey vibe, a little bit. I'm like, okay, I guess you want me to have this education? I'm like, all right. I'm like, Glee did a very good job of giving me my gay education, but fine, fine, fine. It was still a beautiful love story. So I mean, I still recommend it, but it's with all of that knowledge. You got to have all that knowledge, and it's for people like me, like the lover girls in the world, and the lover boys. If you enjoy a love story, like those of us who got addicted to Korean dramas, like those of us, it's kind of like that. All right, it's like that. You know what I'm trying to say? It has that vibe, that build, that feeling, And I will say the difference between a Korean drama and that, of course, was the intimacy, but also that was pretty much it. They used the intimacy to show the build. They used the intimacy to show the love, but they also did so many other things to do it. Also, one of the big things that they did with the intimacy part, which is why I was okay with it, was consent. They showed how consent works all throughout an intimate relationship. That was actually very powerful. Consent was really important, and that was so powerful the way they did that. They covered, I think that part was pretty like cool to me of what that was and how they can show it and how you know I haven't seen that in I really haven't seen it as much. And so that was really beautiful how explicitly they really went over consent in an intimate relationship. And it's something that I think everyone should benefit from and have that education about. So that was good. So that was my new thing. I'm going to get deeper into it, but we're not there. We're not at something deep. We're still on something new. So let's go to something challenging. But before that, let me read comments. So when I was growing up, that would be after dark TV. There's no privacy no more. I know. I feel like it wasn't. I don't know if it was labeled, and maybe it was, but I'm also accustomed to not looking at the labels anymore. It was just something about it looked so innocent, but it wasn't. Heated rivalry. I guess I should have understood from the title. My friend clearly understood, but I didn't. So I know you like Korean dramas. There are new ones on the algorithm for my okay, but there are a lot of male love shows. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that in something deep. So we'll get there. Something challenging. Something challenging. The hip hop class. We talked about it a little bit, but the challenging part of the hip hop class for me was one, my body didn't want to do it. She didn't. She loves to dance. Like I had to go home and dance just to make sure I could still dance. I was like, you can still dance, girl. You can dance. You just didn't want to do that. I'm like, my body is not for it. It doesn't like the start and the stopping. It doesn't like the fact that I wasn't getting continuous movement. It doesn't like this, and it didn't like that whole crip walking thing was too much for me, and the fact that once again it wasn't done, like, and then it just mentally, physically, emotionally, it did not align with how I think dance should be approached. It's just we cannot be doing that stuff so casually. There's so many dances in the world, so many things that you could have been doing. We don't need to do that. And if you're gonna do it with a certain kind of reverence. Also just let's not do it, right? Like, how about we don't? Right? And I understand that maybe, Crips don't care. I don't know, but I would care. I would care if my butt had to get beat up by several people just to be a part of the group so now I can happily crip walk. How are you just in class talking about this is hip hop and crip walking? What? No. No, I would care. That's just like you don't do sorority and fraternity strolls and all that, and you don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, I would care. I would care. Okay. Uh I know, I know, I know. I danced. I went home and I danced just to remind myself. But it was, I was like, my body was frozen in that class. Also, it was sensory overload. I'm very aware that I am neurodivergent. I get that about myself, and I love that about myself. But it affects me. I notice it more in new experiences, right? Because I learn to quickly adapt to situations. So, and once I'm in a situation, a process that I'm used to, I'm fine. I'm doing my thing. But a new situation, that's when I really see the how my brain works a little differently, right? I wasn't able. There was too much information coming, so I had a hard time trying to put it all together. I had all these feelings happening at once. I was literally overstimulated, you know? And there was a lot happening. One of the things that was happening that was kind of unique in it was that I had some of my friends were in that class, and they've been going to that class for like 2 or 3 years. So I'll just say maybe about a year and a half at least that I've seen them in that particular class. And they put videos up. Well, I had never gone. So here I am in that class, and now I am putting together every time they've done the videos, what they were doing. I saw how they were completed. I saw the background of it. And so I'm taking in all that information. Mind you, I'm supposed to be in the class learning the steps, but I'm more concentrated on, oh, so this is how it happens. Oh, this is the background that I'm used to seeing. Oh, this is why they do it this way. Ah, this is how they feel before they actually do the video. Oh, this is how they feel afterwards. Oh, they go and sit down. Oh, okay, they're going to do it again. Oh, this is how it happens. Oh, this is how this person. And so I'm just like sitting there analyzing all of that. Why? But that's how my brain was working. I actually had to like complete the whole cycle for myself. And then, but I'm in class. It was so much. There was so much happening. Okay. So, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. So let me see something. Then what else happened? Yeah, I had to, and then my friends asked me, what'd you think? I can tell you all right now what I think. You hear me going in, but it's because it is Sunday. When I was in that car, the only thing that I was really caught up on for the most part was one, I knew I didn't like it completely, but I wasn't quite sure why, and I didn't want to say that because I didn't know, and I didn't want to just say I don't like it. And then on top of that, I only got 900 steps. So I was a little irritated about only having 900 steps, but I was very irritated, like extremely irritated that I only had 900 steps. So there was a big part of me that that emotion was louder than me trying to understand how I felt about that class. And I think that part of me was louder because that was the most accessible feeling that I had. Because the other feelings, as you see here, are a bit more complicated. I mean, we've talked about the crip walking and all the different things that we're talking about, the whole hip hop thing and all of it. So all those things were swirling in me, but it was so much that I couldn't access that at that time. The only thing I could say was, I only got 900 steps in. That's all I could focus on, that I just got 900 steps. So you thought it was rather corny. It was, yeah, it was. It was. It just, and then the weird thing is, and I said this, I'm like, you know what? If this was on my side of town and it's $10 a class and it's just right up the street, I would go. Truthfully, I might have to be paid to go to that class, but I would physically go, but it wasn't worth all of that. And because no, you can make it good. Like there was a girl, she did it and she made it look dope. So you can make it look good over time, right? Once you kind of get over certain things. But you know what? I'm kind of out of that phase of my life where I know something, I don't like something, it's not quite right, but I'll take a little bit for because it's the best I can get. Like I already did that. I did, and I did yoga. I didn't agree with so much of it, but I wanted to be a yoga teacher, so I did that. Or with salsa, I didn't agree with the dancing to the rishas, but I really wanted to get good at salsa, so I ignored that part or would avoid certain things. And I'm kind of over that. Like I just want it all. Like I want to be in spaces where I just like it all. And I know you don't won't always like it all, but yeah, you know what? That's just where I'm at. I'm sick and tired of being in spaces that just I don't completely align with. So that's just where I'm at. I don't know how that pans out for me, but this year is best dance life ever. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. Now that I keep on refining it. All right. Speaking about refining, this was this was a journey to make that one. All right, something funny. Okay. So this was a fun thing to me. Now let's go back to the bar that we were at, the sports bar that Larisha would have kicked us out of. Um, but the girls is what they saved us, the little kids. So the funny thing is, so you have a little girl who's probably about 2 years old, and she's like curious. She's talking, and I've seen this girl probably since she was like a baby, mostly via Zoom. So she kind of knows who I am. She knows my face, and she's very sweet. In general, she goes up to anyone, and she'll just like touch you and just say hi. Just the sweetest little girl. Okay, and then you have my other homie, and then she's older, and she's once again she's another one I've seen for a long time, about 2 years, and she's super sweet as well, and she's always dressed cute. I always compliment her outfits because they make sure she just dressed down. Always dressed down. She always in her little pink. She's just so adorable. And just a sweet child. Very picky, that little spoiled, all that, but she's just like, but in the best ways. Like in the way to me I think little girls should be. So you have these two, and now they're together, and they're just playing, having, and doing their thing. But the older one is not going to be doing all the more dysfunctional stuff as the 2-year-old, right? So the 2-year-old's up to stuff, doing stuff that, like, if she's holding a ball over her head and she doesn't have a good grip on it, and it's a pool ball, and she drops that, that's right on her head. And now we got all the tears and all the stuff, right? So her mom is like watching her. And so every time she starts to do something, and her mom's like, don't do that, this is what she would do. She'd be like this. So let's say she's not supposed to be holding this marker. Don't let go of that marker. This is what you do. And she would do that for everything. She would just stare at her mom in the eye and keep on doing the thing that her mom is telling her not to do. The way I had to turn my head and laugh because it was too much. It was the way she would stare it down that would get me. It was like she wouldn't stop. She just would kind of sit still and be like, are you serious? Because I'm still holding this thing. Don't open that marker. Don't write with that marker. I was so tickled by that. I was so tickled. And they're in public, so there could be like, she's trying to see like how, yeah, she's super bold. She's trying to see how far she can get. And I was just eating it up, man. I had to keep on turning my head because I don't want her to think it's entertaining because I don't. She might get in trouble later. You know how it is. Like sometimes moms will be like, like, and they're sitting there taking note of all the times you didn't listen, and then you might go home and like, remember you weren't listening here, here, here. Like I don't know the parenting style, so therefore I can't laugh. I'm like I can't laugh, or she might just be getting away with it in general. But I'm like I don't know. Her mother might have a thing like, I'm not going to discipline you in front of people. I'm going to give you a little moment, but when we get home. So I don't know like what the plan is. So I'm not trying to get involved, so I'm trying not to laugh, but I had to turn my head though. I had to turn my head after I took in the stare for a little bit because the stare was hilarious, but she kept on doing that. She kept on doing it the whole time. I was like, this is hilarious. So then on top of that, now kids and dogs aren't the same, but it makes me laugh the same. I saw all these videos. This was before the little girl, but throughout the week that I was enjoying with Black people with their animals. And Black people with their animals, almost hilarious. Like who finds these? Like people are like putting them together. Absolutely hilarious. I mean, from the names that they name their dogs, right? From just like don't do that, or just the way the prayer. There was one where they have to pray before they eat, and there's one dog, and then the other one puts the paw on the other dog, and the other one is like, and they pray before they eat food. And it's such a routine, of course, that if she doesn't do the prayer, then they're like, yo, where's the prayer at? Like, whoa, what's going on? Right? And then if the one doesn't put the paw on, the other one's like, put the paw on, man. It's time for prayer. Oh man. That stuff was hilarious. And just like how human they seem. So I was watching a lot of those dog videos. So if y'all ever see any kind of videos like those, I like those. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't feel weird if you're like, oh, let me just slide one over if you want to slide it my way. Okay? I like them. I love those. I love those videos. I try to make my algorithm full of dance, animal videos, like just silly stuff. Like I'm trying to see what else. Art. I always have art in there, but I curate my algorithm in a certain kind of way. But yeah, so that was like something I really enjoyed. So it was like my real life funny things that really made me laugh. And then, oh, I saw something, but don't, that wasn't this week. Okay, so something deep. All right, let's get into deep. All right, so deep is so as much as I love heated rivalry, I loved heated rivalry. I did. And I bring it up to a group of people. So that's why I was like, I'm going to get to this, Risha. I bring it up to a group of people. And my friend, who happens to be a gay male, black gay male, he was like, well, person of color, because he's a little mixed up a little bit, a little mixed, not mixed up in the head, but mixed like a little, you know, little seasoned. So he goes, well, I don't like it. And I was like, well, why not? Because I was thinking in a way, I'm like, oh, it's a male story. He's like, why is it that all these stories all are always of white males? We don't see us. The only thing that came close to it was Moonlight, and I was like, huh. And the thing about Moonlight is that they were still pretty much on the DL. So this one story where all of a sudden everyone gets to come out, everyone gets to celebrate being their love, everyone gets to live out loud and love out loud, they never look like the full community. But yet everyone imitates who really, like, when it comes to the culture, when it comes to, all the ways that, what gets emulated the most, when we think about gay male culture, what we see mostly prevalent out there, who runs it? Who leads it? We know who. We know who, because we there's always these commentary like, why is it that so many of these gay males are imitating black women? Because essentially the black males who are in their effeminate, if they're more effeminate, who are they imitating? And then they bring that culture and they make it big and they do all kinds of other fun stuff with it. They add their own stuff to it. And then we have all these words like, I don't know, hunty, and I don't know what this is, but I swear I don't know who came up with this. But all these things that are done that now hit the culture, so and that give so much like visibility and help to promote a sense of acceptance. Yet, all the stuff that they do, but yet you don't have a love story. You don't get that. I mean, like I said, there was Moonlight, but we didn't have that. And so when he said that, I was like, man, I was like, oh shoot. I'm all caught up in the love story. I'm totally feeling it. I'm loving it and everything. But when he said that, I was like, well, I told him, I said, I'm really glad that you said that, because I definitely wasn't seeing that picture. And I'm like, I'm like, in a way, I'm a little embarrassed I didn't see the picture, but I just, that's not, it was introduced to me by people who clearly look like, the people in there. And I had in the back of my mind when they were recommending it, I was like, why would I watch? I mean, there was the first, I did have the questions like, why would I watch white people play hockey? Right? I couldn't figure that out in my mind at all. What sold me was the love story. And then I kind of, as we started talking about it, I was like, it's funny because I am used to seeing love stories that I have to imagine people, I have to, or seeing stories in general where I either imagine that the people somehow look like me, or they have to be so far off from my own culture that I accept that we aren't there. And I accept that black women, especially as a black woman, that we don't get to have these stories. And I'm not saying there aren't some movies, Oprah, I've said this before, she actually has quite a few love, but they're not mainstream. So they don't get the mainstream headway. But there are some good, little movies where you see a little bit of it. Oprah's network did create a few own. So if you ever find them, they're there. But you're talking about that mainstream. You're talking about like the impact that like K dramas have had, where people like get into it and they travel across the world because they fall in love with the culture. Where people are, it wasn't just me, where all of a sudden you're seeing this and it's all because of we don't get that representation. We don't get to see it. We don't get to see that love story. It says the culture isn't ready no matter how much is being promoted as such. I don't care if the culture is not ready. They are ready though. right? I mean, they are ready. And I feel like, well, why not? And why don't we just find out what the culture's not ready for us to be loved properly either as Black women? Their culture is not ready for us to have, these beautiful mainstream love stories where it takes forever for us to find love, that you have to put in, 6 hours for us to finally fall in love. We're not deserving of that. I think I've watched, Kate, was it Korean dramas where you don't get the full like development of the love story until episode 13. Man, we've been riding this out for 13 hours and we got to see all the different little stumbles and quirks. We're not deserving of that. Like, and so it kind of just hit me like when he said it and that frustration that he had. I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way. And it's more than that. I started to think about my favorite movie because I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, what's your favorite movie? My favorite movie. My favorite movie is Mary Poppins. And the reason why Mary Poppins is my favorite movie, even though no one in that movie looks like me, when I was born, I had dark chestnut brown hair, probably closer to the way my hair is now. My hair, I think, is finally kind of come closer to how I was born because I grew up more like a sandy brown kind of blondish hair. But it was dark. I think it was even darker than my hair is now. And dark brown eyes, okay, and pale skin. So in my mind, now y'all might laugh at this, but in my mind, Mary Poppins was just light skinned. She was just light skinned. That's all. And you have to realize I come from a family with all like everyone. I have people from the lightest to the darkest in my family. And I understood them all to be Black. So there was no one that identified as white. No one identified to me as even biracial. Technically, I think my grandfather was, but he never was there was never a day where he goes, I'm biracial. He never said that. He was a Black man. So I understood Blackness to range from the lightest of the light from the darkest of the dark. That's how I was raised. So in my mind, Mary Poppins was just light skin. That was it. That was it. Let's see. Mary Poppins is a mammy cosplay spiritual. See, but she says a mammy cosplay spiritual. But the thing is, but Mary Poppins, I want to be very clear. She came in, she went as she pleased. She had lovers where she went. She could fly. She could do anything she wanted. Okay. And she had some strong boundaries. There was a limit to what she was going to do. Those kids had to do this stuff on their own. And she left when she was done. To me, that was a heightened existence right there. Everything about that was beautiful. And she was magical everywhere she went and revered, right? So in her worlds and where she went, she was the queen of the castle, essentially, right? She was that. So she was just dope. Mary Poppins was to me like, practically perfect in every way. I'm like, who wouldn't want to be like, she's just light skinned. That's all she was to me. So but that was what my child mind did to relate to Mary Poppins, right? I took in the information that my mom told me, right? Because, I was, especially, when I probably first started getting to Mary Poppins, I was actually much darker because, I was raised out here and in the sun. So this is the adult me that doesn't get a lot of sun, but I get some color. Okay. But based off of my understanding, okay, I'm like, okay, that means I have the potential to be very pale and I have the potential to be very light. So in the same way I understood my family, that there's a full range of Blackness as far as shades go. So I just made Mary Poppins light skin in my mind. That's how I always saw her. But that's why it's my favorite movie. Because I can't tell you of anything else that had those positive aspects, right? Tell me if you guys have one, throw it in here, enlighten me. But tell me a movie that just simply was magical, where you saw just a perfectly beautiful, magical Black woman growing up. I feel like, there even with was it A Wrinkle in Time when that movie came out, maybe those particular kids who are seeing that, maybe, but I don't know that. I'm trying to think of that. I mean, that Black Panther now, right? So you have the Black Panther. So you have kids who see that, and but I'm talking about Black women, right? I'm talking also about being like thoroughly loved. Even with the Black Panther, you see it's so much of an action movie. You know, Nakia and and Shaka together. It's kind of, but it's that's not, you don't walk away with that as clearly. Okay. Oh, the Last Dragon. The Last Dragon, and that's the funny thing. Still with her, I didn't even see her as, but the Last Dragon, yeah. But the main focus was him. I love the Last Dragon. I do. I do. I love the Last Dragon because when you feel the glow, everybody knows. Like I love it, but yeah. Is it a love story? You see what I'm saying? So when he said that, it kind of hit me and realized I just kind of realized how we haven't had those love stories. I when I saw Korean dramas for the first time, the reason why I fell in love with them was because one, it was such a cultural difference. I wasn't looking for representation. Like I understood why there wouldn't be representation. Watching Korean dramas was an absolute culture shock. I had never heard the language before. I think I had only known one Korean in my life. And she came from a racist family who didn't want me in their house. So, and they were Korean American. So I didn't, what I'm saying? Like I didn't have any real connection, honestly. And I had never heard the language. Like I knew nothing. I didn't know what it was like. And all that. I'll get to Coming to America. I'll get to that one. And so I'll get to that one. The colorism in Coming to America is a problem for me. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'll get to that. But the representation just simply isn't there, right? Um, and we really didn't get to have it. Oh, we'll get to that. I have a big issue with that. As you see, I'm breathing hard even thinking about it. Because colorism was a theme throughout the week as well for me. I never feel comfortable talking about colorism because I believe that there's so many levels of it that I'm very ignorant to. Even when I say, "Oh, I grew up with all shades," I feel like that's like one step away from saying I see no color, right? And I know that. And so I always feel very uncomfortable because I feel like there's so much that I know I'm missing. There's so much that I just simply don't understand. I do know, have I experienced discrimination? Absolutely, right? But is the discrimination that I've experienced almost like over time when they realize I'm very conscious of my blackness? I feel like it comes later than it would come if my skin was darker. I feel like if my skin was darker, the discrimination would come right away.